Okay. Hold on, let me just hit. Okay, so it's 7:04 p.m. This is Rebecca Nash. I'm calling the Library Commission meeting to order. Ellen, for roll call, I think you have everyone here except for Brian.
Correct.
And Gail, any citizens' comments?
None that I'm aware of. Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
okay. So let's see. Sorry, I'm looking at something a little strange. So for the minutes from last week, can I get a motion to review the minutes from our November 16th, 2020 meeting, please?
Cheryl moves.
Move to approve.
All right, Cheryl seconds then.
Okay. Is there, sorry, any discussion or comments about the minutes? Okay, could I get all in favor of approving the minutes? Please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, they passed unanimously. Moving on to correspondence, Gail, it looks like you have the will of Martha Perry.
Yes, and I did not bring it up, but I wanted to mention that we had received a copy, and also most recently a notification that the will was submitted to probate. So now it's just a matter of waiting for that process to happen. And I think I had mentioned before she left $2,000 to the library. And we were not the only library that she left money to. Groton, Mystic Noank also will receive $2,000, as well as a number of other organizations that she was part of.
That is great. Is there any sort of acknowledgement that goes to her family or anything like that, or what do we do?
Well, yes, there will be. Typically I do acknowledge the check when it comes in the
Okay.
form of a thank you. Yes.
Great, thanks. Any other questions related to that?
There's one more piece of correspondence that came in. I'm sorry, after the agenda went out, and that's the letter with schedule for the budget hearings with town council and with the finance committee. They hold their meetings in March, and the library is scheduled for March 11th at 3 o'clock. They're doing it a little differently this year because of COVID. They're asking only that the department heads only attend. In the past, it was open to board members as well. And they're considering that they might do a hybrid approach where board members could conceivably call in on Zoom and be there that way. But that hasn't been determined yet, how they will do that.
And I assume they'll let us know once they decide whether it can be in person or remote, or what the plan is, right?
Right.
Okay.
I will go in person, but the remote part would be board members that wanted to attend.
What time was it again, Gail?
It's at 3 o'clock on March 11th.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, I have it on my calendar. We'll see what happens. All right, so treasurer's report, Carol.
It was all fairly routine, as you may or may not remember. In October, there were no expenditures listed, although there had been, because once again, the town hadn't taken the money out of our account, but it was taken out in November along with November's expenditures. They do not show up separated, but they are all part of the report. The 2 months are put together as far as the expenditures go. I didn't have really have it broken down by which ones were part of which withdrawal from the bank. There were two different withdrawals, but they didn't exactly match the difference between 1 month and the other. So they're just all listed as one, but it's all caught up now as far as I can tell. Hopefully they will continue to now do monthly, and I believe Gail has better access of finding out things, although not making that withdrawal, right? That's still, they've got to do that.
Right, right.
But that's it. Everything else seems to be pretty standard.
Thank you. And Gail, I don't know if you saw in the chat, Beth just pointed out, and I'm noticing it as well, that your screen share is just like a white box. It's not showing the document.
Oh, it's not, huh?
No.
I wondered what that was.
On my end. Let me try it again.
Okay. I thought you were just trying to minimize us, you know.
I'm glad it wasn't just me. Okay.
No, it was all of us. Thank you for saying something, though.
Why isn't it showing up here? That's not what I want.
My screen says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Host disabled.
Huh.
Well, that's different.
I think that might mean that she's disabled us from sharing.
Oh, I'm the host, so
Yeah.
that's the way it should be. But let me see if I can find out what happened to the document. Give me a second here. For some reason, I've lost it from my screen. So let me try this. I do not know where it went.
If you allow like participant sharing, I can share it on mine. Like I can share mine if that works.
I can do that. I can make you the host.
Yeah. Like, will it work if I don't have it as a document? I just have it as I just have another web page open, because I'm realizing I was having all those PDF issues. I realize I can't open the PDF. But will it allow me to share another?
If it's
you know what I mean?
If it's on your desktop.
Okay. Yeah. Let me try that.
All right. I'm gonna make you the host.
Yeah, I have two screens, so I have things all over the place. But let's try this.
Okay. See if you can find it, and I'll go look for it again.
Okay. Now this. Does that work? Are people seeing?
That's
See
the
the
budget.
spreadsheet.
That's the budget.
All right, hold on. That's it's just the other screen. I have two monitors, so it's showing you that monitor. Hold on. How's that? Are you seeing it now?
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me get this one back up. Okay. All right. So I think Carol, you were all set with the treasurer's report, right? Okay. So moving on, Gail, the director's report.
Okay, I'm gonna give a little summary of the budget, but under new business, when we talk about the budget, I'll go through line by line and we can discuss it at that point. So I included a draft copy of the budget. Staffing continues to be a top priority, and I want to focus on restoring some of the library assistant hours. We have not opened on Sunday this year because of the pandemic, and that has helped a little. I did want to mention that at the finance meeting last year, when I discussed the whole issue with the library assistant hours, I think they were understanding what I was talking about, and it seemed like they were prepared to put some additional money towards it. And then we got hit with the pandemic and everything stopped. So nothing was changed from what the mayor had proposed. Once the pandemic is under control, I'd like to reinstate the Sunday hours. And I anticipate by next September, we should be able to do so. The increase to the minimum wage will also impact the wages for library assistants. The minimum wage will increase to $13 an hour, August 1st, 2021, and to $14 an hour, July 1st, 2022. The current starting rate for library assistants is $12.72 an hour, which will fall below the minimum wage. Library assistants have a lot of responsibility, and this should not be considered a minimum wage job. I have shown two options in the budget for library assistants. Option one is a $1 increase across the step table, and I show the numbers. And option two is a $2 increase across the step table. Library assistants work part-time and earn no benefits. When they are out sick or take time off, they do not get paid. I'd like to recommend option two, a $2 increase across the steps. Last year, I presented the hours in terms of FTEs, and that seemed to make a difference with town council. And we had asked last year for the $1 increase across the board. But again, the pandemic hit and nothing got changed. Our largest increase will be in salaries. I also recommend a slight increase for the telephone account and an increase to the book budget. The cost of materials continues to increase, and all other accounts will stay the same. The Capital Improvement Program, CIP, these items are typically handled by Public Works for building needs. However, we've continued to submit something for a future addition to Beale Library. An action item in our strategic plan suggests we investigate the possibility of an addition. I'm not sure this should be immediate as in next year, but possibly the next 2 or 3 years once the pandemic is under control. In last year's CIP request, we suggested 2023 to begin looking at it again, but I think a lot will depend on the state of the economy, etc. It does make sense to keep the idea out there, and I recommend that we submit the need for space at the library. The community has continued to discover the space at Gales Ferry Library, and they've been pleasantly surprised. Recently, a grandmother came in with her grandchildren and was remembering how small the children's area used to be. She was happy to see how bright and open the new space is. Under library news, Simply E, the app, has been developed with the state library has worked in partnership with other agencies on developing Simply E, a mobile app that allows users to access digital resources on multiple platforms. It will provide free access to the titles available in the State Library collection, as well as titles available through the Digital Public Library of America and the New York Public Library. This collection contains over 27,000 items. The app can also be configured for interested public libraries to include titles from their library and or consortium collection. And we are in the process of adding our library to the list. It will include our Overdrive collection as well as digital magazines. Essentially, it provides a one-stop shopping for digital resources. As of right now, Hoopla is not available on this app, but they are talking with Hoopla, and hopefully that will eventually come under that umbrella as well. This free app is available from the App Store or Google Play to download to an iOS or Android device. And I hope that we can start promoting it to our patrons in early January once our library is fully configured. Under building news, the HVAC work continues. The furnace under the children's room has been removed. The new boiler is in place and the heat pump is working. The propane tank is in the ground and connected to the building. They were due to start work on the other side of the building this week, but there has been a change. With the snow coming in on Wednesday and the fact that next week or the next 2 weeks are going to be short weeks, they didn't want to start to disconnect the other side and have it sit over a long weekend with no one in the building. So that their plan now is to finish up the work after New Year's when they're back on a full week schedule. There are several air handlers in the main library that still need to be connected and another heat pump to go in the basement. I have good news about the phone system. We're scheduled to have it installed on Friday, December 18th. Public Works is getting the same system, and Sean was able to negotiate a discount to do them both together. Public Works has run the cabling for the new phone jacks in the children's room and the staff area. The vendor will connect the jacks as part of the system install. This is a good example of a collaborative project. I will pay part of the cost from my budget, and Steve Maslin is working with the mayor to find the rest. And I'm sending you all best wishes for a happy holiday season and a healthy new year. Stay safe, and let's hope 2021 brings an end to the pandemic. And that's my report.
Oh, here on that final note. Yeah, any questions for Gail?
No?
This is Beth. Is this a time about the phone system?
Yes.
What did you end up, so the library's paying part of it and the town is paying for Public Works?
Yes, so when I talked to Steve, I said that I wouldn't be able to cover the whole cost, but I might be able to come up with $500 to $1,000. And if he could come up with the rest, he has spoken with the mayor, and I know they're working. In any case, he said that it would be covered, that they would find a way to cover it. I know the mayor spoke with Regina from MIS to see if she could contribute I know initially she wasn't sure she could, but I haven't gotten involved in any of that, so I don't know where that's at right now. But I know the work is going forward, so I'm thinking they've done something to cover it.
That's great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Any other questions? Okay, so moving on, John, do you have a report from the Friends?
Just that the Books and More did amazingly well given the quick put together and the fact that we're in the midst of a pandemic. They raised over $2,000. There may be some more coming in, but I know it's at least slightly over 2,000, which is excellent. So that's my report. Unless Gail
Wow,
has
that's
something to
exciting. Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. I thought you were done. Go ahead. Can
Unless
you say that
Gail
again?
has something to add, that's my report.
No, that's great. They really did a nice job with it, and people came forward and bid, so it was nice. I think all but one or two things had bids on them.
Yep.
That's awesome. I also know from the Friends I got my renewal in the mail, which was great because in years past it just sort of like one year would fade to the next and I would forget to renew. So they're definitely on top of that, and that's great. And I encourage everyone to become a member of the Friends as well. So let's see, do we have any old business? Okay, take that, no. All right, so in order to start discussing the FY22 budget, could I get a motion on the floor to approve it so we can start talking about it?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Cheryl. So John moved and Cheryl seconded.
Rebecca, do you want to bring up the budget or?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want this one or the other one?
Let's go through the other one. Yeah, that one. And
Okay. Everyone can see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I can go through line by line if you'd like, or account by account. And then at the end we can discuss what we have. Some of the salaries are determined by the union. Kim Pendleton, the custodian, is Town Hall Union. I put the numbers in according to their contract. Department head, myself, I don't know what they're looking at for cost of living, so I didn't put anything in there. Supervisors, Lisa Murnau, Elaine Steele, and Stacy Britt, in the supervisors union. Their contract is up this year, so they need to negotiate for next year. These salaries are based on the current year's numbers, with the exception that Lisa and Elaine will both move to step 2. So there's a step increase, but I don't know what the cost of living increase will be. The assistant wages, Jackie Bacon, Kathy Davis, Jan Dawson, and Andrea Buca. Again, those are Town Hall Union. I took the numbers right from their contract. All 4 of them are on the top step, step 3. I'm not recommending that we ask for the vacant assistant children's librarian. I really, my priority continues to be the library assistants, and we've gotten absolutely nowhere putting both of them in. So I'd like to focus on the one and not the other, leave that out. And the part-time wages, those are the library assistant wages. I've put in the numbers. I don't know if you remember, but last year, when the mayor made his proposal, he arbitrarily picked a number which wasn't even enough to cover the step increases of the people who got step raises this year, and there were 3 of them. And what is saving me is the fact that we're not doing Sundays this year. For next year, though, I've got Sundays in there, I've got the number of hours in there, and I'm asking to restore 16 library assistant hours. And if you remember when we discussed this last year, we talked about it in terms of full-time equivalent, but we also talked about the number of hours that the library is open when there is only one person on the desk at Bell Library. And the 16 hours is to provide that double coverage at both libraries and to give us some room covering vacations and sick time for those people who earn benefits. I've got numbers in there for the $1 increase and the $2 increase. And you can see that in the columns. And my recommendation is the $2 increase.
Gail, can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
My motion was to approve the budget with the option 2 with a $2 increase.
Okay.
I didn't
And
make-
Cheryl, are you comfortable having the second on that as well?
Well, that was part of my original motion. I just didn't say it.
I just
I'm
want to
fine
double
with
check,
that.
you know.
I'm sorry, what did you say,
Yeah,
John?
I'm good
I
with
could amend, we could amend, but just make it as part of my original motion.
Yeah, so if the original motion is approving the budget with the $2 step increase, and I believe you were the second on it, I just want to make sure you were comfortable and that you heard that the first time as well.
Yeah, I heard it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. And let me see. Then we get to the contract maintenance, which is a cost for water and alarm testing. No change there. Telephone bill is just a slight increase from $25.40 to $26.00 based on cost increases, which have been minimal. I've showed the billing this year and last year. Operating expenses, again, no change, $11,793. This covers mileage, basic operating expenses, which that includes post office box and any advertising we do for job openings or things like that. Office supplies, craft supplies, building supplies, the 2 really high rents, dues for the Connecticut Library Association and ACLB. And I will say that CLC dues come back to us 10 times with the discounts we get by belonging to CLC. Continuing ed and publicity.
Absolutely.
I do want to mention that under building supplies, this year especially, we're having to buy a lot of things COVID related that we haven't had to buy before. Because we're a public building, we need to disinfect continually both buildings. And we're going through the Purell disinfectant spray quite a bit, gloves for the staff, disinfectant sprays, there's a lot more expenses that way that we haven't had to do in the past. And yet we haven't increased that account.
Are you able to cover all the expenses with what's in there, or does it make sense to add a COVID line item that's a temporary thing?
Well, hopefully by next year we won't need it, but I do know that the town did get reimbursed for the COVID expenses last year, but it is not going back to the departments. It's gone into the general fund. So my thinking is if we run short this year in that account, I may have to go back and say, you know, this much money was spent on COVID related things that we hadn't we hadn't figured on, and ask for an extra appropriation if necessary. But that would be more this year than next year. I'm just, making that point that that may come yet this year,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
definitely.
Can I ask a question about publicity?
Sure.
If we're going to be using social media to promote the library, we might want to spend money on promoting on Facebook. And do you think, is that $200 for that, or is it for other, like ads in the newspaper and stuff like that?
What we have been using that for is the bulk rate permit when we were mailing out the newsletters.
Okay,
I haven't had to do that this year because we're not doing the newsletter, but it could also be used for other publicity items like flyers that we have to put, make copies of and things like that.
Is it
I wanted to have a better handle on what we might spend on social media promotion.
Yeah, we haven't done anything with the paid ads on social media. We've done it all, with the free posts.
Yeah.
I know you can boost things, and you have to pay for that. We haven't done that.
You also might, this is Beth, you also might, if there's some program that you're using, like if you're using Canva or something like that, if you're using a free version, I don't know if you would be able to use your publicity money to pay for those applications.
Yes, and I do have a paid version of Canva, as well as a paid version of Zoom. And I think I ended up taking both of those out of the book budget for this year, but certainly it would come under publicity as well.
It's an option.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gail, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you think it's worth doing an analysis of the budget to understand where you've been able to take money from like one account that you're not spending in to supplement another, and then use that to explain why? And where I'm coming from in this is that for most of your budget items, except for salaries, you're not proposing any increase.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing some of the issues that we've had with the mayor in the past, I could see him suggesting to you that you're padding the budget because you're able to afford these other things like the phone and stuff when you need to. So I'm sure that you're not spending as much on some things because of the pandemic and because programs have been cut, et cetera, et cetera. So is it worth being able to see like what your expenses are and where they're not as high as you thought they might be so that you can be prepared for that question?
So yeah, so I definitely can say if you go back to the contractual maintenance item, there is a little bit of, let's see, I'm getting $500 I have right now available from that account, and that's my initial PO for the phone bill. And I'm hoping to be able to squeeze, if I have to, another 500 out of the operating expenses. And as you mentioned, we're not doing programming. And so we're not, some of the things that we would spend, money we would spend on programming is where I'm finding that money. Jan, the secretary, I had her go through and look at everything she thinks we're going to need for the rest of the year and give me an estimate so that I could see exactly, what I absolutely need out of contractual maintenance. I'm sorry, out of operating expenses, because I don't want to shortchange us come June and not have money to buy a toner for a printer or a copy of toner or something like that. So I'm really looking at everything that we're going to need to purchase this year. And this is where we have found that the COVID expenses are adding up that we don't normally have to pay for.
But
Yeah,
maybe it makes sense. Oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
No, I think you're doing a wonderful job managing it. This isn't a criticism at all. I'm just trying to think that the mayor may ask you a question. It's like how you've been able to afford these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And like to be able to have that in writing and prepared that this is the way I was able to do it. This is the way you were able to do it.
I certainly can do that. Continuing education is one of the areas that this year, because everything is virtual, we're not having like CLA did not happen this year, and some of the other conferences where you have to pay to go, they're doing free virtual conferences. So yeah, that's a good point, Cheryl, and I can definitely do that.
Yeah, and I'm sort of wondering, does it make any sense to sort of have a notation in there that in, fiscal year, like the current fiscal year, a lot of that you kept everything the same, but for this year, some of the items, since the library wasn't open as much and because of COVID, you didn't have as many expenses, but you used them for COVID-related expenses, but you expect that in 2022 that won't be the case. That's why you're leaving it the same. Sort of preemptively, maybe address it. Would that
That's
help?
a good point. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Okay. Any other?
Yeah, because I think that would address Cheryl's concern too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Under the Lion Computer Network, Lion once again is going to keep all the costs the same. In addition to the Lion fee, this account covers the network cost, the annual maintenance for the fiber network, the Gales Ferry network, this is their cable connection, and the delivery service from Lion. And I take part of that from the Lion Computer Network and part of that from books. And the book budget. We gained $1,000 last year. It was increased to 51,000, but we're still below what we had been. I'd like to recommend that we ask for 55,000 for next year. Again, the costs continue to go up. The e-materials are much more expensive than the books. And especially during the COVID, those resources are getting much more use than they ever have in the past. And for lost books, I am not requesting any money from that. I've kind of rolled that into a regular book budget. And anytime we have a lost or damaged book that we want to replace, I take it from the regular book budget. And then if you want to show the next page, Rebecca, the spreadsheet.
Hold on. Oh, this is, oh no. Well, I'm having some other issues with my computer that I was griping with Gail about before.
I will make you not the host, and I think I can bring it up.
If you can bring it up, that would be great, because I need to, it seems to have, yeah, give it a shot. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Reclaim hope.
Oh, wait, I think I might have found it again. It's the only problem with having so many screens on my computer.
Okay, I think I have it.
Okay.
So this is a summary of all the accounts for the past 2 years, and then the 2 proposals for next year, and showing you where the differences are. And again, the union contracts positions are determined by the contracts. The real big one is the library assistants, because we're trying to restore some of the hours that were cut. And then we have the wage increase, $2 an hour wage increase.
Regarding the wage increase, is it worth pointing out that your library assistants are paid less than your janitor? Not that I'm trying to say that Kim isn't worth what she's worth, but you're requiring some skills in your library assistants that she may or may not have, and she's making a whole lot more than they are.
That's a good point. Yep.
You know, so like you're not like trying to gouge the town or anything like that by saying that, you know, they should be making like $1 million a year. They're making less than what your janitor's making.
Right, and they have a lot more responsibility.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's kind of where I was going with the fact that I don't think it's a minimum wage job, and I feel like we're having to play catch up, because I had requested the $1 increase last year to try and stay ahead of this, and it didn't happen. So that's why $2. And again, it's still going to have to go up in another year to get to that $15 minimum that's due to happen.
Gail,
I think really, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ralph, go ahead.
Excuse me, Gail, do you have any comparative data to support the pay for your library assistants?
I could go in and look at the state reports and see what other libraries are paying. I know I've done that in the past. I have not done that for this year. But I understand that there's a preliminary data set right now for the 2020 state reports that were just turned in.
What about calling some of the local libraries and finding out? Your colleague.
Well, I can do that, but it may be there in that spreadsheet. But
yeah, that would be good to know if we were significantly less than other
I think
libraries.
we probably are.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
The wages.
Well, I don't doubt that we're underpaid. The issue is if we can show objective, independent information to support that claim. To me, it's easier to sell than to just say, I feel like they should get paid more.
I think that's a very good point.
I have looked at and compared it to, and I'm not sure if it helps or not, but I look at the Parks and Rec schedule for their playground assistants and where they're at. And that sometimes gives a good guideline as well.
Are the playground assistants, are those high school kids though? Or is that a different job?
No, some are high school, some are college. The supervisors tend to get more, and they get more when they come back a second and third year. Kind of what we were doing with our library pages.
And roughly what are they, so am I hearing this right, that the like high school and college kids are making more than the library assistants?
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
I have it here. No, I don't have it here. It's at work. I like to get the schedule of what Parks and Rec is submitting, just to look at that as I'm asking for my library assistants. I don't think that the entry level playground assistants are earning more, but the supervisors earn more, and they're college students.
Yeah, I don't know. To Ralph's point, I think actually comparing apples to apples might be more beneficial. I mean, it would be very sort of appalling to me if the playground assistants were making more than the library assistants, but that might be a sketchier argument to make. You know, I mean, I think focusing on the fact that, you know, how we compare with other towns, the minimum wage issue that you're trying to address, and that these are not minimum wage positions, these are skilled positions with, you know, specific, you know, knowledge and background.
Right. I will see what I can glean from the state report, and if it's not adequate, I'll give a call to some of the similar sized towns like Colchester. I think Old Saybrook is one. I'll look at the similar sized libraries and see what I can find out, and definitely bring that information into my talking points.
Gail, this
And
is
even just, oh, go ahead, Beth.
this, and it's like the CLA job line kind of sometimes has like the list of minimum, what they consider the minimum to pay somebody full time.
Yeah, those are typically jobs that require a MLS degree, and then a paraprofessional. So it would be like my senior library assistants, not the generic library assistants.
Gotcha.
You know, obviously anyone glancing at the spreadsheet is immediately going to see the, you know, 50% increase, you know, because they're going to mentally round up as well. So maybe just address it immediately with your asterisks that, you know, proposed $2 hour increase across the board on the bottom, and sort of to, you know, emphasize on there to bring it closer to some sort of language, whether it's to bring it closer to the minimum wage or to something that addresses it right away, so at a glance someone knows why that is so high. You know, it's not, or to bring it in line with industry standards like Ralph was mentioning, or whatever you need to do to have that language be so that someone doesn't immediately dismiss that. You know, because you don't want it to come across as it's just like, you know, well, because we like them and we want to be nice, you know.
Right. And the $1 an hour increase just barely meets the minimum wage. And the $2 increase is to kind of bring it up to a level of what we think, you know.
Yeah, well, to recognize that these are skilled positions above, not minimum wage positions. And maybe that's even what's in your asterisk statement. you know,
Mm-hmm.
but really just get that out there right from the beginning.
Right, right.
And it is extremely minor, but I just happened to notice while I was reading the 4 * one, the telephone costs have increased. You just want to add a D on there.
D. Yep, I see that. Okay.
Very, very minor. Any other comments, thoughts, discussion?
So what you're going to be putting forward is the proposed, not the column of revised proposed $1, right?
Well, you know, I'd like to do it as the proposed, but I'm wondering if it makes sense to show them both numbers so they don't, so they see where the $1 gets us.
They're
No,
going to automatically do the $1.
Yes, exactly.
That's a given.
Okay,
You won't even consider $2 if you mention $1.
okay.
I don't think. What does everyone else think?
I agree with you. I agree
Agreed.
with you. You're given 2 numbers, you take and you're the person who's giving out the money, you take the lower number. Say, I'll take this one or I'll take this one. So, you know. It's not
Yeah,
gonna-
and they know they can cut the $2.
Right.
Right, right. I know last year when I met with finance, I gave them a chart with the different options and they appreciated seeing what those numbers did. I think I did like a 2%. I did the dollar increase and then I did a 2% increase. And we talked it through and they understood where I was coming from. And that's why I think that they would have done something had the pandemic not hit. Mary, I'd like to hear from you. What is your thought on what town council is looking at this year?
Do you maybe have her muted on your end?
Were you asking me? I'm sorry.
Mary,
No, I'm asking Mary.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, but I am muted, so I figured I'd come back in and make sure. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
no,
go back to mute. Thanks.
Maybe she may have stepped away because it's funny, I don't see it muted on the screen, which is why I went muted,
Yeah,
but she
yeah.
may have just stepped away for a second.
Okay,
Um,
okay. I just was hoping she'd weigh in on
The other documentation you were talking about, is that something that you provided as part of the discussion, like if the question was asked?
Yes, these were talking points when I met with the finance committee.
So maybe go along with that, you know, take the column out of this for the $1, and if that is the discussion you're having, you would have that information available to share where you could show it if they were saying, well, if we don't take the 2, you know, what would $1 give you? You know, if that was proposed, you would have that information, but maybe don't put it out there at the very beginning.
Have it available.
Do-
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. And I think,
Don't you have to do the $1 anyway because of the minimum wage increase?
the $1 is a minimum. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. To see where that gets us. The $1 would be a starting rate of $13.72, and the minimum wage is going to be $13. So it's just barely above minimum wage,
Yep.
which will be going up to $14 the following July. So, you know, we're just trying to kind of stay on top of it, if you will.
That's what the $2 will do, right?
Right, right.
You're helping the town in the future, so you don't have to, you know, raise their things like $4 in 2 years.
Right. Well, they'd have to do the dollar, I think, no matter what. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they could say $13 for starting rate and be okay, but I don't think we want them to do that. Again, it's not a minimum wage job.
Maybe you ought to note that in the triple asterisk that we're doing this because of the minimum wage increase.
Uh-huh.
Add that to the triple proposed $2 increase across the board due to minimum wage increase. And then,
I can do that. I also have that in the narrative of the budget as well.
right,
And when I transfer that to the town budget, I will make sure I state that pretty clearly.
yep,
And again, I like the idea of finding out what other libraries are paying.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that.
thank you for doing that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Beth.
I think that will really support you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? Questions, thoughts? All right, so all in favor of the FY22 budget with the amendments that we discussed, please say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion unanimously passes. And Gail, the CIP request in the new business?
Yes, I just want to know how the commission feels about keeping the idea of the addition of the library out there as a capital request. And maybe not for next year, but 2023, looking for funds to do the initial cost study, because we would not know, we wouldn't have any idea of costs until we have that looked at again and have an architect or engineer give us some cost estimates.
I think it's not a good idea for this year. Only for the following two reasons. I think there are a lot of people in the town that are hurting because of COVID, and it's going to take them some time to recover. We also just went through a huge reassessment where at least most of the people I know kind of got a really big increase in the assessments on their property. And I'm hoping that the mill rate goes down proportionally, but I think it can be viewed as a kind of spending money because of the increase in the assessment. So the two of them together, I would be a little sensitive, I think, to any big capital plans. My 2 cents.
I think that was very well said. I agree. I guess I had the question when you said, keep it out there, like, what do you mean? Like, just meaning like in our strategic plan or, in conversation?
Well, it's in the strategic plan, and having it in the capital plan, not for next year, but the following year or even 2 years later, just keeps it out there, and that they know that the library needs additional space. So what you're saying, Cheryl, is not to put anything out there at all? Just not submit any kind of a request?
I'm saying I believe that the need is there, but I would be sensitive this particular year because of what the town and the residents have gone through for COVID. That I think it could be viewed as very insensitive to be thinking about a big spending project when there are so many people hurting.
Okay, so just maybe if I explain it a little better, that when you do the CIP, it's a projection for the next 5 years of what you think might be coming down the pike, so that you don't all of a sudden say, well, we want money next year for a project. We're saying that we anticipate in 2 years or 3 years or even 4 years that we're going to need to look at additional space for the library. So it's not something for next year, but it's something that we anticipate in the future.
But didn't I hear you say though, Gail, that you would have to have some type of assessment and spend some money to do some preliminary work?
So that's what we would be asking for, and it doesn't even have to be 2023. It could be 2024. It just puts it out there that we anticipate this need, and that we're going to need funds to find out what the project is going to cost.
Gail, do you have any plans or numbers from the last time you did this?
We absolutely do have all of the numbers, but I don't think we want to use those numbers.
Oh, I agree. They would be too old.
Yeah,
and things have gone up. But I mean,
yeah.
do you have at least some idea as to how much what you want to do is going to cost?
Well, again, it would depend on the project. But the last project and the last time we had the referendum, it was, I think, up to $4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we had said that we would raise, and we were close to doing that, half of that. But, you know, we may scale the project differently. We may, the cost may have, I'm sure, have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
right.
The state library, who were giving $500,000 in grants, now gives $1 million grant. Now, you know, there's a lot involved in that, and it's too early yet to say what direction we would go in.
Gail, can I ask for a clarification?
Mm-hmm.
The CIP request, that's capital improvement plan.
Yes.
So this is a request to have it listed on that plan, not a request for financial input in the next couple of years, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we're not talking about asking people for money in the near future during this time of stress. This is just keeping it on the books as a potential need down the road.
Yeah, I just think it's insensitive at this particular point in time. And, you know, the library hours are being cut. You don't have that one assistant that you're not asking for budget for. I mean, you could argue that you could get better utilization out of the library by increasing the hours. So if you're only open for X percentage of time, is that kind of expenditure something that the town would want to even think about or put it on the plan? I'm just for the optics, I don't think it's a good idea.
This is
Well, let me ask a question. Quick question. Just balancing those 2 points. How often do we update the CIP? Is that an annual thing or?
Yes.
Every year.
Yes.
Annually.
Yes.
Yes.
Usually
wanted to double check.
like it started out with the fire trucks. To buy a new fire truck costs X number of dollars. So each year you put in a certain amount so that when it's like at the end of 5 years, when we need a new truck, most of the money would be there.
And have we always had the library edition on that list?
No.
Yeah. Well,
Well, maybe way back when. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all right, so I'm sorry, always meaning within the last, yeah, I redefine always, sorry, in the last couple of years, like say 5 to 10 years.
I think the last 2 years it's been taken off the list.
Okay. Right.
But the other thing is we do have $1 million in funds that have been set aside towards this project. So you know, going into it, we have money set aside, but we can't really do anything until we know what we're going to do and what it's going to cost.
And if you don't get it on that list, it won't be under consideration in the 3 to 5 year, right?
I think that's the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When I say keeping the idea out there, it's just letting it be known that, you know, it is something that we want to consider going down, you know, going into the future.
But you could put it back on the list next year.
Yeah.
If you don't put it on the list this year, there will be nothing precluding you from putting it on the list next year.
Right.
Is there, and I'm not sure which the answer is there a distinction between adding it next year for like 2 years down the road versus adding it this year for 3 years down the road? Is one of those, are there advantages or disadvantages of either of them? I mean, obviously the sooner has the optics that Cheryl's concerned about, and I see that, but I wasn't sure if having it with a shorter window, if it got listed next year, would that make it less likely to be considered?
It becomes less of a, oh, I didn't know you needed that kind of a thing, you know, less of a surprise, if you will. It's planning, it's advanced planning. Is the way I'm looking at it. Not.
So if we put it on now for say 3 years out, that respects the fact that people know that, you know, that we realize how difficult things are right now, but it allows for planning in the future. It keeps it, you know, that it hasn't disappeared. Does that balance it in a way that, how do people feel about that?
And I think it's part of the strategic plan. And so if you're going through the process of saying we're being responsible and we're looking forward to things, this is what we want to do in the future. And we want people to know that it's a goal since it's already part of the strategic plan.
And the other thing is, if we get to 2 years down the road and things are still not good, there's nothing to say we can't push it out again. I mean, we've been pushing it out for the last 8 or 9 years.
Yes.
For 10 years.
My redefining always.
Yeah.
In 10 years, at least, maybe 12.
Yeah.
I think it's 12 years.
When was the last referendum?
I want to say it was 2005.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
15 years.
Wow, we've been doing this for a long time. And who is the CIP shared with? You know, I'm just sort of thinking optics of how public is it?
This comes under the jurisdiction of the town planner.
Yeah.
And
It's in the budget every year, but nobody probably pays attention. It's part of the budget every year.
Okay, thank you.
And people put in their, I'll call it their wish list.
Do we have to put a dollar amount in, Gail?
Well, we don't have a dollar amount. So I think what I was estimating initially was like a token amount to do a study, like $10,000, $20,000 to find out the scope of the project, the cost, where the money would come from. That would come later. This is just a appropriation to do the study, if you will.
And what's your comfort level on timing about, if you were to put it on now, when would you be wanting to ask for that appropriation?
Well, I definitely wouldn't do it for next year. I could say 2024. That would give it 2 years, and we could see what next year brings.
How do people feel about that? I think that makes sense.
I'll make a motion to approve $10,000 for the CIP for the addition to the Bill Library for 2024.
How much would it cost for an architect to draw up plans?
Well, that's a lot more.
Right, but you could then put so much in each year until you hit, let's say, 25,000.
Well, Neely, we have a full set of plans, building plans that we paid the architect to do in 2005. So when I talk about having a study for the scope, I think the first thing to do would be to look at those plans and see, is that still appropriate for now, you know, when it happens. I wouldn't just toss those aside because we paid quite a bit to have that done.
Right, right. So I guess you have to decide, looking at the plans, is that what you want to do?
Right, right.
But that could be part of the
study.
Yeah, thank you. So with John's motion, does anyone want to second that?
Actually, could you repeat it?
I move that we approve $10,000 to do a study for the addition to Bill Library in 2024.
Do the study in 2024 or to build the library in 2024?
No,
do the study in 2024.
Yeah, it wasn't clear.
So it's just $10,000 you're asking for in 2 years, 3 years from now? I don't.
Maybe, yep.
It's not a lot.
Do you think that's enough, Gail? I mean, you threw that number out. That's why I used it.
Yeah, well, I think I was thinking 20,000.
Did I say 20,000 or 10,000?
You said 10.
I would put 20 in just to be safe.
Okay.
I think you're being.
I'll amend my motion to that since there wasn't a second. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're being insensitive to the town. I'm not, I mean, I'm very, very pro-library, but I'm feeling very uncomfortable about this. You know, it's like, I know that the library has had money bequeathed to it for an addition, but when the town is hurting, to say, well, hey, we get $1 million that we've already been given that we can put to this, is kind of like shoving it up in somebody's face, and it doesn't feel comfortable to me.
The whole reason for the CIP fund is to look forward to the future.
I understand
You
that.
can't just say that we're going to wait until 2024 and then spring that on the town. That's not the point of the capital improvement program. Down the road.
I understand that. You're with an administration that has not been supportive of the library. Your hours have been cut, the days have been cut, and now you're coming up and saying, yes, we want some money to expand. I don't think it doesn't follow to me. It doesn't pass the sniff test. I don't agree with it.
Well, let me say, if we could get And Cheryl, I completely respect your opinion. I'm just, if we have a second, we can have that as part of the discussion and we can vote, and it's perfectly okay to vote against it as well.
So I just need
so
the wording of the amended motion. What is the amended motion?
You want to repeat it, John?
$20,000 for a study for the addition to the Bill Library for 2024.
Okay.
And
Second.
I'll ask again, if there's a second, we can continue discussing it. Was that a second, Cheryl? Or Carol?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, so Carol has made a second. Cheryl, if you, feel free if there's more you want to say, or if anyone else wants to talk about it some more of. Okay.
I'll
So
just add that we did have it as an action item in the strategic plan to look at expanding the library. And I think this is just a step in that direction.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, I'm gonna put it to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And sorry, and any nays?
I'm a nay.
So I figure, okay. So one nay with Cheryl. The motion passes. Cheryl, I do appreciate the input too. All right, so nominating committee. So bring me up to speed here, Gail. So we have elections in January, and which?
Yes, so January is a month of elections, so you probably want to have a nominating committee to just come up with a slate of officers for next year.
Is every position, like, as I know there are on 2-year rotations, is everything up or
Actually,
not necessarily?
I think it's every year.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Sorry, was that hopefulness?
People typically do have it for more than 1 year. Yes.
Okay. So, well, let me ask: is it appropriate to ask people to let me know if they are willing to stay on in their positions, or is anyone wanting to step up and be part of a nominating committee and find that out?
Yeah, I know in the past, John used to take care of it that way, and it would be all done, and you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm willing to stay on unless someone else is wanting to step in. I'm not saying I have to stay on, and all right. With quiet, I will reach out to everyone separately. Unless, again, is there anyone who's dying to do that? Does anyone have any roles they want to fill? All right. How about this? I will reach out to everyone who is currently serving in the position, but also if you're not and there's something you're really interested in, please let me know so we can, see how this all goes. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Our next meeting is Monday, January 25th, which feels like a very long time away from now. But yay, so happy holidays to everyone in the interim. Oh, and I need a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:23.
Oh.
So move.
All right, that was Carol moving, and
Second.
I'll second it, or Beth second. All right, so the meeting is adjourned. I will see everyone on January 25th, and I hope everyone has a restful, wonderful, safe, and happy holiday. And may 2021 be way better.
Happy holidays,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas to everybody.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone.
Safe, stay well.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
All right. I never know if I'm supposed to jump off the meeting or not, but are you okay with how everything